What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Tarun's Thoughts. My name's Tarun Shetty. These are my thoughts. Happy Tuesday, guys. It's Tuesday here in Florida. I don't know what day it is, wherever you are. Maybe you're watching this in Australia. Aren't you guys like a day behind? Or maybe India? India is like a day forward. I don't know. How many people here are Anthony Bourdain fans? Do people remember Anthony Bourdain? I know he died, but everything's so fleeting, right? I just I just saw some interview, and who was it? Who was talking? And they were like, oh, it was Howie Mandel. And he was like, famous so fleeting. He was like, my daughter doesn't even know who the Beatles are, right? Like that's how fleeting everything is, right? Like you're forgotten tomorrow, pretty much. I was reading this article the other day in the Atlantic, and I was thinking about Anthony Bourdain through this article because there was an unauthorized book written about Mr. Bourdain. And man, these unauthorized books, they're very interesting because who knows how much is fact or fiction. They do independent research, and they come to their own conclusions and write this book. And I think the family is not happy because, man, Anthony Bourdain seems kind of like a lunatic, honestly. Like look, had some problems, but you can't discredit everything he's done. And the worst part about when people pass is they can't defend themselves, right? It's basically they're on public trial and people have their own conclusions. And unfortunately, Anthony Bourdain had all these vices and drug addictions, and he killed himself. So, it's hard for him to defend some of his actions. There was a biography that I watched, or documentary about him. I forget which network I saw it on. But man, this guy just seemed like he had his vices, and he went from one thing to the next, like drugs to jiu-jitsu, not a vice, but like just like addiction. Like when he wanted to do something, like it became like his world, right? And women, right? He was dating some chick named Asia Argento. Is that her name? If you're learning about this, do your own research. I'm just telling you a very broad, general perspective from my point of view. But I was reading this article, and man, just seeing this guy, from what the article says, he was like Googling, his ex girlfriend. Apparently, they were in some open relationship, or she broke up with him, and then he saw pictures of her with some dude, right, through like paparazzi photos, and that's what triggered him to kill himself, right? Like the guy just seems, man, just in a bad spot to take his life. But I could relate in the sense of like every guy, especially like when you're coming up, like you get obsessed over these girls. I'm sorry if you're a girl watching this, but like, I'm sure girls, it's the same thing. Like you think you found the one, right? And you become obsessed over them, and then they reject you, and you're like, man, I'm a piece of shit. Nobody loves me, right? I've been there. I totally relate. I never wanted to kill myself, but I've definitely been depressed. But look, you throw in drugs, and it's a whole new game, right? And it's sad because, Anthony Bourdain, it was such an amazing host, person, intelligent, charisma. I don't know if he realized the effect he had on this world. And I think that's with any artist. I know with me, like, I'm not comparing myself to Anthony Bourdain, but I will. Sometimes I think, man, everything I do is like, what is this? It's all worthless. Like, who gives a shit? Like when I made that travel show, that Facebook travel show, and it did moderately well. I had Anthony Bourdain in the back of my mind. I was like, man, how I want to be the most authentic version of myself, and that's what this guy did so well in every episode. I think that's why he was so, he connected with so many people, because I think people saw themselves in Anthony Bourdain, especially like a guy who struggles, who overcame stuff. If I'm not mistaken, I think he made it like when he was like 44. I think he wrote this article called Kitchen Confidential, which was published in the New Yorker, and that really launched his career and then launched his TV stuff. And it was a snowball. But man, this guy was down and out and just picked himself out of the fire, through divine providence, and made something of his life. Unfortunately, this goes to show you that, not everything is sugar and spice, right? It can lead to some dark roads if you're not careful. Whatever Anthony Bourdain did, right? His vices and addictions, He's got to be remembered and appreciated for all the positive he created in this world, even if he was, hard to work with, which, by the way, is not proven. So, it's he said, she said. With that said, I hope you guys have a great day. We'll talk soon. Take care.